one of the best ways to build up your saxophone technique is scales. And that's what this video is about. Hi, I'm Donna Schwartz from DonnaSchwartzMusic.com, the site to bring your playing up to the next level. In my last video, I talked about how to work on scales, and I gave some beginner and intermediate resources, as well as my suggestions for the order of scales that you should be studying. This video is going to be a part 2 of that. And I'm going to be giving you some advanced resources and some ideas to help you further your technique on the saxophone. So the first resource I want to share is actually a series of books. It's 3 books in the series, and it's the Berkeley, The Technique of the Saxophone by Joe Viola. Okay, my cover's falling off, so I'm just going to take that off for right now. That's how old this thing is. There's a lot of great content in each volume, and this one is particularly titled Scale Studies. So technically, this could be good for an intermediate player. In fact, an intermediate player should go through this series. It does get a little trickier, though, as we get to the middle of the book. So let me give you an idea of some of the sections in each of the books that I'm going to show you today. And I'm going to go to, for example, over here. Okay, so like this would be a page on scales, for example. And it would just keep going up and up. And then the next page would be going, starting from the top, going down. Etc. Okay, so that's one example. Then we talk about, or they talk about, polytonal variations. And let's see, let's go right over here. Yeah, there we go. Okay, and what this means is that you're not in one key per se. Like you're going to start off in one scale, one key, quickly go to the next scale, quickly go to the next scale. This, I feel, is good preparation. A lot of people want to know about triad pairs, but they may not have enough flexibility to move from one key to the other. So I think by doing it in scales first, I think it's going to help. Something like this. So that was going like C scale concert, B flat, but tenor C. C scale to D scale to E to F sharp, A flat, B flat, and C. Okay, just to give you a little bit of a taste of what's in this book. And as we get further in the book, we start to expand those arpeggios, not just your typical triads, but 7th chords, 9th chords, even 13ths, 11ths, 13ths. And they call the 13ths the 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13 septads. Okay, so let me show you what I'm talking about. That kind of sound, okay? They even have some really cool like rhythmic exercises here too. My book is falling apart. You get the idea. So it's pretty cool. So this is, again, the book 1 from the Berkeley, The Technique of the Saxophone series. That would be, for intermediate players starting out in that, it's going to get pretty advanced pretty quickly. Okay, so this would be a great step after the other video that I talked about last time. The next book that I would go to would be by David Height, and it's the Foundation Studies. Try to get this so it's not so much of a glare. Okay. So for this book, let me first explain the first page of material here. What's interesting here, you see the key signature of C, nothing there, but they're saying C sharp, C, C flat. So they're not going to rewrite the exercise in the key of C sharp. They just want you to know you're going to keep looking at this, but think of it in the key of C sharp. Okay, so even though it's written in the key of C, here's C, you're going to be thinking C sharp. Okay, and that's what you're going to be doing. You're going to be transposing the exercises. Well, actually, it's not even transposing. It's just remembering your key signature and working through that and trying not to get thrown that you're not seeing like 7 sharps in the key signature, or if you're thinking C flat, 7 flats in the key signature. Now, what's great about the foundation studies, it's not just the scale going up and down. There's also the tonic, the arpeggios, the chords. There's interrupted scales, there's broken chords. Okay, they call it returning scales. And what I find, let me just find it. Yeah, what I find really interesting, they also deal with the dominant 7th chord. You don't see that too much, although in the Rubank books, yeah, in the Rubank books you definitely do. Towards the end of some of those exercises, you're doing like triplet patterns on dominant chords, like a. Yeah, here it's just a little bit, well, it's definitely a little different. And then it moves around. And then what this book does, it spells out like intervals of a thirds, fourths, fifths, sixths, sevenths, and even octaves. Okay, this is a very challenging book. And not only does it have like the major key, then it's got a page of the relative minor. Okay, so then this would be A minor. What's interesting is they don't say A sharp minor. So if you were playing the other page in C sharp, they don't say A sharp minor for this, although you can definitely assume that. Now what they do here that's also interesting, I should explain this. Just get this up. Okay, so over here, it says here harmonic, melodic. So if you wanted to play the melodic minor over here, you would read what's written. But if you wanted to use the harmonic minor, use the accidentals that are drawn in above the notes. Okay, so in other words, this is what's written. That's melodic. If I wanted harmonic. Okay, so I just wanted to point that out because they only say that once. They say that on page 4, but it's assumed, yeah, it's assumed for the rest of the book. Okay, so that's super important. Now this goes through all the major keys and the relative minors, and then they go through intervals and chromatic order, diminished scales, which are, are very important to know, and they even do patterns on those diminished scales as well, broken chords. They have staccato exercises in the back, even triplet exercises in the back. They have a review page. Yeah, review pages of the major scales. It's written a little weird here, but it follows the pattern of the book. So there's all the major scales here, but here's the thing. Like here you see, okay, starting on a B. Well, you can't read this as written unless you want to play like a Locrian scale in C. But they're assuming that you're going to be playing a B flat scale, so think the key signature of B flat, and then you could think the key signature of B for this one. Okay, so that's how this goes in the back. A little weird, but it actually follows the pattern of the book. That's what they do with that. So that's the height book. All right, advanced stuff, definitely. But I'm choosing that second because now I'm going to volume 2 of the technique of the saxophone. This is Chord Studies. And for this one, let me show you what I'm talking about with some of the stuff that you're going to see over here. So basically you're in not just like E flat major, let's say. You could be in E flat major, but my pages are ripping. This is terrible. You could be in E flat major, but they also have sections for like E flat minor, E flat 7th, E flat minor 7th, E flat minor 7 flat 5. okay, and then E flat diminished seventh. So there's a series of exercises for each scale, okay, each sound. And it's not just your typical scale types of things, it's lower neighbors. It's also upper neighbors. It's triplets. Okay, and then there's some really funky 16th note exercises that are pretty unusual. Okay, some interesting stuff there. It's actually kind of cool. So this is basically based on, so I could just show you a page here, like D flat 7. So you see they outline the arpeggio. They outline the extensions of the chord, and the first thing that you're seeing, the next line is the arpeggio, and then the exercises, and then there's more exercises on the next page. For this one, there's also some other stuff in the back too. There's a summary page. So for example, they have like C. So one measure of C, one measure of C minor, one measure of C7, one measure of C minor 7. Get the idea? So it's a summary section going on there. And, oh yeah, and they also have a section on studies on chord sequences. So whether it's chromatic, so like this one starts on F. Okay, or stepwise. Or other types of patterns as well. And not even just, like all up or all down either. Let me see this one. That one spot. So interesting stuff in here, I gotta say, and that's towards the end of the book. So again, that is Technique of the Saxophone, Volume 2, the Chord Studies. Okay, definitely recommend that. I would also obviously recommend Volume 3. I don't have that on me, but I would definitely recommend that. One more, and this one is definitely very advanced. And the thing with this one, it's a little hard to read. The typeset is not as clean and neat as the other books. Although, you know what? I do have to say something. With the Berkeley books, I found that there are some mistakes in here. You've got to be super careful when you're going through this. Having a little bit of a theory background is going to help you recognize some of the mistakes that are in the Berkeley series. Again, these are very old editions, so they could have corrected them in the newer editions. Okay, so again, back to the last one I'm going to recommend. And guys, there's tons of books out there, stuff I may not be aware of. Okay, but these are just some of the ones that I have that I think are really great for people to work out of. So this one's going to be the Daily Studies for All Saxophones by Trent Kinniston. Okay, blue cover. I think it still has a blue cover. And in this book, again, scales, intervals, thirds, arpeggios, and not just major and minor. It's also dominant seventh, augmented, diminished seventh, quartal, which means in fourths. Okay, there's also some tonguing etudes and some tuning etudes as well. And with this one, let me just show you what I'm talking about. So for example, you got your diminished scales. And they have got arpeggios, major, minor, all this kind of stuff. There's also some tonguing exercises, and in this particular one, you'll recognize the sounds of it. pentatonic, okay? So for those of you that love pentatonics, you're going to like that exercise. And long tones, circle of fifths in the back, all types of things. So these are I find these are really great resources. If you know of other resources, please put them in the comments. That would be really fantastic. Now, the other thing that you can do, here's some more ideas that are a little bit advanced. I think they're a little too advanced for intermediate level players. The next step is playing this stuff without looking at music, figuring it out. And the more that you figure it out, it'll be easier to read. Okay, so for example, let's say you take, I don't know, let's say the key of concert C or something like that. Going up the seventh arpeggios, using each note of the D scale, and then back down. Actually going down, but going up at the same time. Okay, and then going up and down. And then down and up. Okay, and it's not just that, it's also doing, you could do like scale, you could do an arpeggio into a scale. You could also make up your own patterns, okay? We call these like digital patterns, okay? So using the number of the note of the scale. So like, for example, D would be 1. In this case, E would be 2, F sharp would be 3. So you can do something like this. You can do you could do those types of things. You could make it as extreme as you want, or or build up to that. Another thing, and a little bonus tip too, a great book that trumpet players use to develop their technique is the Clark Technical Studies. And in particular, you'll always hear trumpet players warming up on this exercise. To the point where you'll get sick of it, okay? But that's actually a great exercise to do on the saxophone as well, okay? So a little bonus tip for you there too. Just talk to your trumpet playing friends, or just, listen to this video and just figure out what I just did. All right, so those are my tips and strategies and ideas for advanced ways of really working on your scales. Of course, there's so much more, but if you're interested in really building up your technique and building up your knowledge of scales and working them out to really own your scales, well then definitely contact me at the link below to set up time for lessons. All right, thanks for joining me. Hit the subscribe button, give it a like, please share it, I'd appreciate it. On that note, take care, have a great day.